Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before I call this meeting to order, there's a couple of things I want to mention. Over the weekend, we got a number of calls about some strange sound, siren, or anyway, that's going through Haslett that's not been heard before. I've got looking at it, or I say looking at it. I went up to the hub last night when I heard it, and there happened to be a train there, and it seemed to be associated with some locomotives. And further research, just reading on my part, the electric engines have a rectifiers in them. They run on AC, single phase, 24,000 volts, and the rectifiers inside the engines, evidently when they're starting out, they will do a square wave, and then as they speed up, they'll transition to a sine wave, and those rectifiers are loud, particularly when you're dealing with that kind of voltage, and the more power it's got to exert. Nonetheless, we got a response over, I think, one of the social medias that someone who is well acquainted with it said the same thing, that they suspect that. But I had two recordings that residents had made recordings of last night, and I forwarded those to our Director of Government Affairs and also the supervisor of the Burlington Northern Terminal up here, and they're going to look into it and give us a response. That, and the only other one thing I wanted to say is Rangers in 5. All right then. I call this meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. this October 30, 2023. It's the special meeting of the Haslett City Council. There is a quorum of 4 present in the chambers. Tanya Morrow being absent. So let's go to item 2A. Item 2A is discuss, consider, and act to approve a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute the interlocal agreement with Tarrant County for funding through the Tarrant County Transportation Bond Program 2021 for the construction of Keller Haslett Road extension to FM 156 and construction of FM 156 turn lane. Here is the project. The turn lane's not depicted on here, but nonetheless, if you're coming from intermodal headed south, just before you get to the extension, there would be a right-hand turn lane constructed with this project, facilitate traffic flow, right-hand turn off of 156. This ILA, if you noticed previously, last meeting, we approved the ILA with Tarrant County Precinct 3. Precinct 3 is the Tarrant County entity, separate from these bond program folks. Tarrant Precinct 3 will construct this project, and that was in the amount of $2.82 million. This bond program reflects a $4 million project, and this was in the guidance of the Tarrant County Bond Program leadership. And what this ILA does is it locks in those allocated funds, these are allocated in the bond program, for Haslett. This is not a $4 million project, but reflecting a $4 million project sets aside $2 million for Haslett, and that whatever funds are left over can be utilized in a future project in this area. So it's a good program. If we would go to the flow sheet, cash flow sheet, the PDF. There it is. And you have a hard copy in front of you that I handed out. So at the last council meeting, I decided that Haslett would cash flow the project and entering into an ILA with Tarrant County Precinct 3. We have to assure that the funds are presently available. November the 13th, we will do a budget amendment to allocate $2.82 million out of our reserve to cash flow the project and how we will be reimbursed. Let me cover these project dates. If all goes well, November the 13th, end of next week, Tarrant County would start mobilization. Project construction start would be November the 27th. The 90-day project. That's 90 work days, 5 days a week. That would take us out to March 27th. The below at the top, I got Q1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excuse me, 4. Then starting in 25, Q1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are set up with regard to in your ILA on. I don't recall what page it is. Here, let me point that out to you. It's page 11 of 18. There's a chart, and it's reimbursement schedule. And that's how much, because they let these bonds out in stages. They don't get all, I don't know how much that total bond, transportation bond was. Maybe a couple. How much? Somewhere, yes. But nonetheless, in Q1, which we are in Q1 right now, we have 467,273 that are available for reimbursement. And each month or each quarter, there's another allotment available. So under City of Haslett outlay is $2.82 million. Now we would not, that's funds set aside. We're not spending it all at one time. We will, as invoices come in, some items city will direct purchase. Much of it, this Tarrant County will, they'll cash flow. When Tarrant County is finished with the project, then they will invoice the city for that amount of money. So going on to the bottom table, City of Haslett outlay 2.82. Then I have contributor funds available. Q3, I've got $1.45 million. I put it out in Q3 because these developer agreements will be set up is money will be escrowed on the beginning, but when do they release it? Well, just as we did with Haslett Parkway, is when Tarrant County notifies the City of Haslett that the project is substantially complete and the road is open to public travel then that is conditioned when we receive the money. And as on Haslett Parkway, we received the funds within a week because the money is already there, and we gave the agreed evidence that the project is finished. So that's how the agreements are being set up. And so taking, you see the transportation bond funds available. That correlates with what's in your ILA document per quarter. So the city of Haslett balance carried forward Q1, which is the quarter we're in right now, is 2.82 after November 13th when we do that adjustment. Q2, I show these balances by quarter. So the 2.352 is the 2.82 minus the 4.67. So I'm a quarter behind. And you'll see the progression by quarter until the city is fully reimbursed. That would be Q2 of 2025. At the end of that, the city of Haslett will have this new roadway for a total investment of $150,000. And that 150 is already in our line item budget. In fact, I believe it's 285 or 290,000. 290,000. So that's where our 150 is coming from. So that's already budgeted. The very bottom, in Q2, we will be fully reimbursed, and throughout the remainder of that bond program, City of Haslett will have almost $400,000 to put towards additional road project, new road project, and that equates to, it would be based on 50% reimbursement, that would be a $800,000 road project. And there are other projects out there some developers are interested in doing and would gladly partner on. They've expressed that a number of times over the last year. So there is, and this is good. So this ILA just locks in these funds for Haslett, Texas. Any questions?
Mayor Halsey, I do have one question. So I guess what I'm looking at here, though, too, and it's just probably more of an explanation, is the road will be done second quarter of 2024, but we won't be fully reimbursed until second quarter.
Yes, and that is because of the county's bond release and funds available to reimburse.
Okay.
All of the 1.45 million, it will be available immediately. When I say immediately, the project will be completed in the first or in March of 24, the end of that month. I expect that after the first week of April, we will receive all those funds, and that will be allocated to Haslett.
Is there anywhere, and again, probably more, I know that we're the ones that are holding the money to pay out front, but is there any way we're making the money work for us while we're holding it before we're divvying it out?
Yes, all of our idle funds are always invested. So until the day we have to pay anything out, it'll be invested up to that point. And if we receive the funds for the developers, that will also be invested. So any of our idle cash is invested all the time.
Any other questions, discussion?
Yeah, one question on how solid are we on the construction start date, and is there still any outstanding right-of-way issues that's being litigated?
Yes, sir. Well, we're solid on that construction start date if the right-of-way issues get resolved. We have where the right-of-way is that being requested. Can you go back to the overall the project, the road project exhibit? All right. All right, there are two property owners involved in it. And they're working on it diligent, is coming to an amicable agreement where they're both comfortable of dedicating this right of way. The right of way, yes, it is in litigation between these two parties. And there are agreements on the table. Other extra steps are trying to be pursued. Just not comfortable divulging too much because it's in personal, or I say, in private business. But
Excuse me, Mayor Halsey. There's several people trying to get in on the call-in line to this meeting, and they're having difficulty. Are we online?
is there anybody showing up on your system? Did we got the correct numbers listed? Are they trying to call in or trying to get in online?
Trying to get in.
Give us just a minute then. Yeah, if you would ask them to retry here. Give us a minute to ask them to retry. All right, I see people up on the line now. Our city attorney.
Yes, I'm here.
Very good. All right then. Any more? That fixed it? All right, we'll proceed then. Mr. Page, I gave an overview of what the ILA is and also went over a cash flow since the city of Haslett is underwriting this project and the cash flow associated with that when we would be fully reimbursed, which would be Q2 of 25. But the question came up about are we pretty solid on the construction start date, and are there any right-of-way issues? And my reply was, yes, we're solid on the construction start date if the right-of-way issues are taken care of, and that there are two property owners involved, and that it is in litigation, but one party to the other has offered remedy to it, and it's all contingent if the other party is comfortable with those remedies. And that's the state of it. Anything else would you like to share on that issue, Mr. Page?
Sure. So as the mayor mentioned, there are two property owners here. We have entered into pretty much an agreement with both of them as to how and the terms for the deed for each of those pieces of property are going to look like. And so we have commitments from both of them that they are in agreement with our terms that we have negotiated. However, what we are waiting on, as the mayor mentioned, is for those two parties to both agree to some sort of mutual understanding relating to this property, so that they are comfortable not necessarily releasing it, but allowing it to be conveyed with the pending lawsuit going on. And so I'm hopeful that the two sides, they can reach some sort of agreement on that. Again, on our end, we've done everything we can do to get this across the finish line. We have deeds with both parties for their separate pieces of property ready to go. It will just really be up to these two property owners sitting down together and coming to a mutual agreement as to whether or not they're allow for this to happen, whether they can come to that some sort of agreement.
I have notified all other stakeholders, City of Fort Worth, Tarrant County Bond Department. Those are really the only outside stakeholders besides the two property owners and the City of Haslett of this, as well as the Dollar Flowers group of this situation. And they're all comfortable with it. Really, however it transpires, we get that right away, Haslett's at zero risk. Nonetheless, and we're looking at, I have passed the word that I need signed, sealed documents by this Thursday, close of business. So then we can forward it to Tarrant County, Precinct 3. What's happening there, yes, we passed that ILA, but they knew we had right-of-way issues. So they're holding that. Now, that ILA has still got to go to the Tarrant County Commissioner's Court to get approved. They're holding that until we give them the word, yes, we got the right-of-way. And I'm hoping, as the reason I passed Thursday, close of business, then we can notify Tarrant County Precinct 3, we have the right-of-way, our hope, and they can get it on the Commissioner's Court for that following Monday, a week from today, and pass it. Tarrant County Precinct 3 plan is the end of that week, that Thursday and Friday following next week. They will start mobilizing their equipment out here. So that's how fast this is happening. But this happened last year. It went all the way to the end, and it just didn't materialize. I have told people, that I go into these things very hopeful, despite both developers that are involved here want this road. The City of Fort Worth wants this road, Tarrant County wants this road, and the City of Haslett wants this road. Everybody wants this road. It's a great benefit. As small a project it is a big project in facilitating travel, whether it's logistic or commuter.
So I'm sure by the 16th of the meeting, you'll give us an update on this of how everything.
Absolutely. So I go into these things very hopeful, but I am always prepared. It doesn't happen. So we're working everything's queued up.
I have one last question that just came to me looking at this map here. Is there going to be any disruptions to Keller Haslett Road and or 150 portion of 156 during any of this construction?
David, you can better answer that.
No, not really. All the turn lane portion on 156, that's all outside of and with that big shoulder. That's not going to be a big issue up there. I mean, there'll be some barricades that, keep them pushed over a little bit, but it's not going to mess with traffic. There will be a little bit there at the curve on Keller Haslett Road there by the bridge. There'll be a little bit right there, but it's all the way they've got it all figured out. Precinct 3 with those last two pieces right there. They'll do part of it, get out of the way, then come back the next day, finish the other little bitty piece of it. and that way they will have very little impact, probably not more than a couple of hours each time.
I'm just concerned because I know that a lot of people right now, because of the train, again, are using that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
The good thing is the way the precinct likes to do things, they wait until, they wouldn't even start something up that way until after all the morning rush is done. Usually that kind of a piece they'll do right after lunchtime before everybody starts doing anything. They'll work a couple hours and then they pull off and come back the next day and do it again.
Any other questions?
Mayor Halsey,
Yes.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing you to execute the ILA with Tarrant County for funding through the Tarrant County Transportation Bond Program 2021 for the construction of Keller Hazlet Road extension to FM 156 and construction of FM 156 turn lane.
Motion is made to approve and authorize the mayor to execute the interlocal agreement with Tarrant County for funding through the Tarrant County Transportation Bond Program 2021 for the construction of Keller Hazlet Road extension to FM 156 and construction of FM 156 turn lane. Is there a second?
Mayor Halsey, I second that.
There is a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, council. Motion passes. Item 2B, discuss, consider, and act on an increase to funding to the Ashmore Farms Repairs and Slurry Seal Project, account number 29-9304-01-00 for additional work in the amount of $143,000, and this is a correction. It's $143,812.16, and authorize the mayor to execute change order number 1. And Mr. Rogers.
All right, I'm sure everybody remembers this project. Y'all funded it through, part of it was through the COs. So that's a portion of it. The rest of it was funded through the Fund 20, which is the transportation tax money we have. And this, of course, project had to be rebid out again when it came back the first time. We only had the one bidder and had to go back again. So drug the project getting started a lot farther than we thought. So then when we got out there and got started on the project, we started checking around some areas coming up to where all our work was being done, and we found some spots with this hot, dry weather where we actually had some asphalt sections. Curb there is concrete. The roadway is asphalt. The sections, the cracks in the ground had pulled the asphalt 6 inches in some areas away from the concrete, right where we were going to be working. So we started, we better go back and start checking. So we went around all the places again, and we found additional areas that need to be worked, which is the red on this map. And that's when we started talking with the contractor about, getting cost work up for it, to see what it would take to do this. And then, it stays within, it's just 10% increase, which we can go up to as much as a 25% increase on a project. But we wanted to bring it back, have y'all look at this, and that's why we're asking for this funds. We're going to take the additional money, would come from the same Fund 20, the transportation funds, which is what everybody in the neighborhoods around pay that extra tax money for. That's what it's supposed to be used for, is these type road projects. We'd like to get these while we got the contractor there, so we don't have to turn around and come back next year and have another small project to do this in that same neighborhood.
I wanted to mention these weren't failures that were overlooked. From the time that
Too much time between start and finish.
From when the contract or the documents were prepared and bidded, then until we actually got a successful bidder and awarded the contract, months had progressed, but yet we were in this drought condition. And with this extreme heat and the drought condition, caused these separations to occur. And when they were out there doing the work, they discovered.
It's scary how deep some of these cracks were. There was it was a 10-foot long piece of rebar, stuck it down the hole, and he had to hang on because it still kept going. It was down below grade. He had to snatch it for who knows how far it went down. We know it's at least 10 plus down into the ground.
All right.
So
then.
they want to mill it all up, mix it up, bring in and put cement lime stabilization across there and seal that back up so we don't have that crack.
So your previous approved amount, total contract, is 1.4 million. This additional 143,812.16 would take it to $1,552,000.92 and 49 cents. Any questions?
Mayor Halsey, I do have a question. It's probably more again for Marcy. I know we had the funds remaining on the Fund 20. What does this take that down to if we take that 148,000?
I can't tell you off the top of my head. I don't have my budget in front of me. I do know there are sufficient funds in there from what we projected. Also in Fund 29, we do have the interest earnings because that is the CO issue. So we talked about that before, how we have about 75% of those interest earnings available to use on the approved projects. So we have sufficient funds.
Okay, that was my question, is if we feel I have enough sufficient funds, if we have another contingency that we may have to address before the year.
It's my recollection, and I apologize, we didn't. That's a question we always ask: how much is the fund balance going to be? Where we're getting the money
I did look
from?
up the fund balance, and we're actually running ahead of where we're supposed to be.
Well, we need they're interested in the number.
Oh, yeah. No,
And
we're already.
I did look at that,
1.5,
and we would
we're
have
1.9.
approximately $500,000 afterwards.
I apologize, I wasn't here when they were putting the report together, but I can get you that information.
My concern is that, again, we maintain those for contingency reasons, and we're awfully early in the year.
And yeah,
for
Yeah.
that, so.
very good. Any other questions, council?
Yeah, David, I've got a question on here. Looking at the red, the red spots are, I think that's the additional
That's the
payment or
addition, all
repairs
the
you're
little
looking
red
at.
pieces.
So my question would be on these, there's 4 pieces here that are only partial roadway fixes.
Mm-hmm.
And are we sure that they shouldn't be just complete sections of that roadway fixed rather than just a partial?
No, those are actually, when they got into them, as you can see, every one of them except one is right up just by those blue areas.
Yeah.
So they've already had it open. They're already opened up, and they've seen what's underneath there and what's going on. These are just spots where water, it's hard if you've ever driven the neighborhood. The way the curb line was built in that neighborhood, the water draining down the street runs directly down that joint where the concrete and the asphalt meet.
So that's, I think,
And it's separated there, so the water just got under that part. It didn't get out there into the middle, just along the side. And you can almost tell right where the trash truck stopped. That heavy weight right there, rutting right along that line, is what crumbled it and broke it out.
I
and
think to
caused the
answer your
crack to dry
question, both sides of the road were investigated, not just
Okay,
one
that's-
side.
Yeah, I mean, just, from what I've seen in the past, when you do just a section of the roadway, to me, it's going to cost you more money to do, the complete section, so then you don't have a seam in the middle of the road or, a portion of it. But
Well, that's why this complete seal that'll be done, begin come probably in March time period for this road. It will glaze over all of that stuff because it's not thick, but it's very thin, but it seals all those little micro cracks and everything up in the roadway.
okay,
We did that on that road 20 years ago, and that has probably been some of the best money I think we ever spent on a road project in this town.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
I have a question. You, in talking a while ago, you brought up a question for me. So are they going to improve the drainage so it doesn't happen again on something with the curb, so it doesn't drain on the seam?
These areas here where they're having to work on the curb line and all, also, yes, they're actually changing the profile of the curb and pulling the water back so it'll stay on the concrete portion of the roadway. Someday that'll be a bigger project. Every time we work up there, it's probably the same thing. It's slowly replacing that old curb as it wears out with a new profile like that will bring it farther over.
One of the biggest elements that has caused these kinds of failures that we're discovering now as we peel back the road, so to say, and get to see it, is this project is about 7 years late.
Mm-hmm.
They knew this 7 years ago this needed to be done, and no funding had been allocated for it. And so, and one of the contributing failures was the loss of the seal. So that was 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So with the loss of the seal and the penetration of water and freezing and drought, that material just expands, contracts, and that's why you got more than 10 foot deep cracks. So this will be addressed now, and we will actually put these on scheduled maintenance programs for the future.
I got a question. How did they come up with this figure? Is it just 10% of the overall project cost? Is that correct?
No, this is the actual cost for the additional materials, the additional manpower that's going to be needed for the work, machinery time, and all. So it's an actual for that amount of pavement work being done.
Let
We
me
just
draw your
watch to make
attention
sure.
to page 17 of 18 in your agenda package, and you'll see the cost breakdown for this work. The center column.
Yeah, I was just curious if they did it per square foot or if it was just.
Yeah,
you know,
they use the
10%
same
across the
numbers
board.
that they used for the original bid. That's how they come up with these. They use the exact same percent cost for each piece of what they do. So the same lime cost, the same cement lime cost, same concrete cost. All they do is add up square yards of what it's going to take.
Any further questions, discussion?
Mayor Halsey, I would like to make a motion to increase the funding to the Ashmore Farms Repairs and Slurry Seal Project account number 29-9304-01-00 for additional work in the amount of $143,812.16 to be taken out of the Fund 20 Transportation Fund, and authorize the mayor to execute change order number 1.
Motion is made to authorize the mayor to execute change order number 1, and those funds taken out of Fund 20 in the amount of $143,812.16. Is there a second?
Mayor Halsey, I'll second.
There is a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, council. With that, item 3, this meeting's adjourned. Well, Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mayor Halsey, I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second that.
There is a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Y'all have a good evening. Rangers in 5. All we got to get is milestone.